Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchist Dave, and today I'm joined by Drow Bard. How are you doing today, sir?
Hey, what's going on, role players? I'm feeling good.
It's early evening there, right? Late afternoon, early evening.
So it's currently 5 o'clock in the PM.
Nice. So, how are things going on your side of the pond?
Well, not too bad actually. We're finding that there's a great we're having great success with some online gaming at the moment because we can't do any face-to-face stuff. There's a lot of people wanting to shift over to things like Discord or Roll20 and that kind of stuff. So it hasn't impacted our gaming experience too much.
What
But
what is your um platform of choice?
I'm actually using Google Meets, and I'm finding that it's got very good audio, very good visual. There's We're not using any kind of roll counters. We're just because it's just friendly game. It's all trust based. I'm sure they wouldn't. I'm sure they wouldn't be fudging their rolls just to keep themselves alive.
Of course not. We also have a longtime friend of ours. His motto is, "If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying."
I mean, I'm not saying that it
Mm,
couldn't happen, but
yeah.
the last three boss style encounters I've had in the most recent campaign I've been running, the same player has managed to score three righteous furies, one after the other. They're critical hit.
What
So
one would
he
hope
must
we
have he must have to look at the Emperor with him.
one would hope we would grow out of those tendencies at some point.
I'm sure it's just pure chance. Pure chance.
I actually find like the critical failures more entertaining than successes.
There's so much more we can do with them.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, we use we use basically just Zoom like we're doing right now. And then like Ted goes old school and breaks out all of his terrain and just sets up a second laptop and webcam,
Yeah.
and we'll just you know turn that camera on and off when there's something going on. If we need to see something, I do a lot of like screen sharing with maps and stuff like that. And then like Zoom has drawing tools in it, so like a lot of times I just use the tools right in Zoom to make like X's and O's and stuff, so that on the maps that I pull up, and sometimes there are maps that I make in Dungeon Fog. Other times they're just maps I just zoink off the internet for our home games.
Well, there's an interesting Kickstarter at the moment. I think it's like Dungeon Alchemist or something. Looks
Yeah,
really impressive. Looks really
it,
good. Might be worth backing.
I did back it, to be honest with you. It just ended. They did like $2.5 million or something, and
Wow.
um, I saw that. I think like Greg Tito shared it from Wizards of the Coast, and I was like, "What's this? This is kind of amazing." And it is just crazy. It just looks crazy easy. The way the AI works on it, it just populates the rooms depending on, what kind of setting you set to it. So I'm curious to see if it'll really work the way it looks, but it just looks stupid easy.
It does look really good. I mean, usually for things like that, we tend to use things like PyMapper or Hexographer and that kind of stuff. But it gives you
Yeah.
like a general map layout. Or when it comes down to the like dungeon level, I know one guy I know who likes Dungini. That's one he swears by.
Yeah.
So, but I'm old school. I can't help but draw the whole thing myself.
Well, you're also an artist too, right?
Well, yeah, I mean,
So you cheat. You cheat by having
no,
talent.
no, this, this is all I need.
Yeah. So I could do the same thing, but it'll look terrible. So a lot of times I use like Dungeon Fog, and Dungeon Fog is pretty. It's not bad. It's pretty intuitive and easy to use. And I probably am only doing like a tenth of what you can do with it. Like I see like Guy Slanders will do from How to Be a Great GM. He'll do tutorials and he's doing all kinds of crazy stuff with it. He can make it do tricks and roll over, sit up, beg, whatever. I just barely make maps that'll work so my players know what's going on.
I got one guy who's running only war using I think Roll20,
Yeah.
and it's completely macroed. When a weapon fires, you get the sound effects. All the character icons are there. There's fog of war. There's sound. He must have spent hours of time on it, but the quality is really good.
Sounds like witchcraft to me.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's be fair. We're at least 3,000 miles away, and we're talking like we're in the same room. I mean, anything's possible these days.
Yeah. Well, so my Saturday morning games we play using Roll20, and which I love the fact that there's an extension for D&D Beyond called Beyond 20, where I can just pull up my character sheet and just roll from the character sheet. I don't actually have to learn anything about Roll20, and it just makes it super simple.
Yeah, no, it's anything that makes your gaming experience more accessible without distracting from the game itself. I'm all for.
Yeah, when we first started Nerdarchy, there was a Twitch streamer called TimmyTV, and like he was streaming D&D, I think, on Twitch before like most other people were. Like he was pretty new. He was pretty early. Because I think he was like a musician or something, and he used to play the drums, and he started by Twitch streaming that stuff, and then moved on to doing D&D stuff. But like I played in his game, and he was using Roll20, and I don't know what audio software he was using, but in conjunction. But like you said, he had all the macros set up, and when you see someone that does that, to me, it's like a conductor with an orchestra. Like it's so smooth when they're doing it really well.
It helps with the immersion as well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Like
I think if I took the time to learn it, then yeah, I suppose everyone would be quite capable. But I mean, I've got a full schedule when it comes to gaming. I mean, every other Wednesday I'm doing a private session, and the Sunday nights where I help with group play. That's kind of taken a bit of a backseat due to world events, but
all this.
yeah, world events. But I'm still going strong on the private sessions. But it's still quite intense, because it's a lot of yourself you have to put into being a GM. I
Yeah.
find that obviously I mean, I've had players that have come to the table and they think that it just happens, like wizardry. It just happens, and it's like, no, there's reading, there's writing, there's design, there's interactions, there's character development, all of this behind the scenes. And I think running more than one or two games in a week is quite intensive, especially if you've got another life on the go.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. I actually had kind of like stopped running for like 2 years without realizing it. Like, because like in our group, I was the primary GM for years, and even to the point where like I was the only GM that was willing to run if not everybody showed up. Like
Yeah.
it would almost seem like anyone else that was willing to GM our group would like at a hang now cancel the session, and like, oh, so and so can't make it, I guess we can't play. And I was like, you know what, I just want to play. I don't care about story continuality anymore, because if we worry about that, we're never going to get a bunch of adults together with busy schedules all the time. And I was just like, if 3 people show up, I'll run it. I'll run the game, and we'll either like fade the other characters to the back or whatever. Because like we're not writing novels here. At the end of the day, we're just rolling funny shaped dice, playing make believe, and having fun, right?
Well, I mean, I'm the designated fill-in for whenever a game doesn't happen. I mean, because we
Yeah,
usually have, if we're doing the club work, then there's at least two tables running normally under normal circumstances,
yeah.
and someone eventually turns around 2 or 3 weeks into a 12-week session, and it's like, oh, I just can't do it. You know, I can't go on. The dog ate my Prozac or whatever, and there's no more there's no more gaming. So I have to then jump in. It's like, fine, I will put something on the table. So I always have to have pre-generated characters prepared, and usually I have like 2 or 3 games like ready in waiting just for that scenario. On top of the fact that I have to keep writing new things, but as it stands, I mean, I've got half a dozen D&D characters, half a dozen Vampire the Masquerade. Um, Sometimes there'll be some Call of Cthulhu. Just depends on what kind of group I'm working with. But I just have to have like a folder full of spare characters just so I can say, don't worry, guys, Bard to the rescue. Absolutely mad.
Gotta make, yeah, the show must go on.
Of course.
So
And nothing is not a showman.
yeah, yeah. And so, are you more of a casual gamer or a serious gamer?
I like casual. I do enjoy casual games, but what I like to do in a session zero, if I can, is get the expectations of the players around me. Um, However, it tends to devolve into humor, especially when it
Yeah,
comes to club events or club games. It's one thing, it's usually just a social excuse for social interaction. So the games tend to devolve into humor, but privately, um, everyone everyone like is focused, really focused, and I really like that. So it really depends on the situation. As it stands, however, I get more fulfillment out of a game when they throw themselves into it, and I think there's that requires seriousness, you know. But at the same time, you want to enjoy having fun. You want to have fun, so why not do that? So it's a very fine line, I think.
yeah,
I
a
don't even
give
know
and
if I can.
take. I, I
Yeah, yeah,
I like casual games with serious moments, right? So I think that's like a good mix, and all of our home games are kind of that way. Like we'll be kind of ruckusy and dick jokes and goofing around, and then mixed in with some serious role play. When and I'm also playing at least one stream game a week, and that's like the perfect place for the more serious RP stuff anyway.
yeah. I don't mind the stream games, but I am missing face to face. It's I mean, that's the whole point for most of us.
You mentioned club games, so is that like at stores, gaming
No,
stores?
no. So I help to run um like a small social group where we get together for gaming. Um, it used to be just like in pubs and stuff, we just go to a
Okay.
public house, order drinks and whatnot. But then the group started to expand, and then it got to the point where we needed two tables, and then we just said, well, let's just hire a hall. So now, again, under normal circumstances,
Yeah, yeah.
it's a case of two tables. Sometimes, we might even have to branch out into a second room. Um, but it's nice because it's still completely uninterrupted. I mean, it was great just being able to get up and go to the bar, bring back a beer, and then carry on, through the dungeon. But as it is, it's a much easier for many of us to just have our own place.
There was like a organization that started up here in Philadelphia called I think Drinks and Dragons, and they
Right?
would go, at certain nights they would host it at different pubs, different bars, and they would just take up a huge swath of it. And most of the, and you, but you, it's usually during the week, right? It was a weeknight, not like the weekend when things are busier. So, they had an arrangement, I guess, with these places. And, if people would like come in early, order a dinner, and, have drinks while they're playing. So they didn't mind because they tended to be slow on those nights anyway. So it helped them. And they, I went to I think I went to one event and they had like 4 or 5 tables going. So not bad. Decent turnout.
That's good. I mean, I think more tables tends to be necessary.
Yeah.
Because we find a lot of people who want to play. I mean, we had twice the amount that we have now. There was a bit of a rift that happened through no fault of my own. But we did lose a bunch of members for various reasons. But we were struggling in just one room. We had one of them big sort of scout hall kind of things, and we had at least 3 tables going on there, and they were jam packed. And it was, you couldn't hear yourself think on another table for what was going on the other side. So I think it was a fortuitous thing that a lot of them left. Not that we ever want to see anyone go, but the quality of the games improved with a slightly smaller group. And I think that stands for a lot of just games in general. The fewer players you have, the more attention the GM can give to each individual person. And I find that I generally prefer smaller games because then everyone gets far more time, in the limelight. But that's what works for me. I mean, it could be completely different for other people, but I just find that the smaller my group, the more focus I can give them, and in turn, the more focus they will give me because they're not sitting around doing nothing.
Yeah, like I guess for online games, like 4 people is a good number. And then in person, like a table of 4 to 6 is super manageable. Um, anything more than that gets unwieldy. Online, it's even tougher with a larger group. So I like to keep those smaller. And also, our online games tend to be shorter. So I always like to like divide the time into blocks of 15 minutes or so per player, right? Just as a way of kind of like mathing it out, And if you're doing a 2-hour game, right? That gives you 8 blocks, and if you have 4 players, that's 2 for each without the DM. So it's not bad. Like you get a decent amount of time for screen time for everybody. But more than that, it really starts to break down. And it gets harder to share the spotlight. And also, like at a table, it's easier because you can talk over each other. Not that it's a great thing to do, but you can do it, and that's normal conversation. But when you're in a Zoom call or a Google call or whatever, the technology can only grab one person at a time. So it's weird because like in real life, it becomes almost turn based, like the game.
True, but I mean, one thing I think that we tend to forget when we're doing turns in games, and this might actually work to the system's advantage, the Zoom calls advantage, is that sometimes there'll be wasted moments because someone will say, "I will do this," and then someone will say, "You shouldn't do that." Therefore, I try and stop them, or I tell them to stop. And then it's like, or I quickly tell them that it's not going to work. And then they turn around and it's like, well, maybe I won't do that then. And it's like, well, you didn't have that opportunity to go through all of that. What might be best then is for them to just do their actions unhindered, and then just deal with the consequences afterwards. I mean, it makes far more entertainment to be dealing with mistakes that get made.
I can definitely see that for sure.
I mean, you
Look,
can gather in all the different ideas for a situation for each individual, then have maybe a few moments just for a quick, this is what everyone said, and where necessary, and then everyone could just be like, "How did this happen?"
so Poison wants to know. Well, first of all, they're a big fan of your build videos. What have you got planned for the upcoming Ravenloft character options, with the
Ravenloft,
lineages especially?
Ravenloft, you say?
Ravenloft, yes.
I haven't looked into it. Is it like a new expansion?
Well, Van Richten's guide's coming out,
Oh, okay.
which is going back to Ravenloft, and they're doing like 30 of the domains of Dread, or retooling some of them. There would be like, especially like 40 pages of monsters, and there's gonna be some player options. But last month we got Gothic lineages from
All
Unearthed
right.
Arcana, and
Now, I might have to look into that because I've always liked the Ravenloft setting. The
uh,
idea that you're trapped in these small, confined realms. Um, uh, that
yes, so there was
especially,
like three races that they introduced.
mm,
The Dampier,
mm,
one of them is the Dampier. One of them is like some other kind of undead, and one of them is like, you're a construct. I don't remember the names of the other two off the top of my head. And they also just dropped Folk of the Feywild yesterday, so there's
okay.
three more. And some of the changes are they're not doing stat adjustments anymore. It's just like you get a plus one, and you get a plus two, or you get three plus ones. Put them wherever you want. Um,
Yeah, I think I know why. I remember reading that they wanted to break away from the idea of race.
yeah,
Um, I don't know. I don't know if it really works. I think perhaps you need to define something like an elf or a dwarf or what have you. I don't know if you can really. I mean, if I'm going to play an elf, I like it to be an elf. I don't like it to be just like kind of some cosmetic thing. I like it to have its whole backstory, its whole lineage, its whole
yeah,
history, and I think that's necessary as part of the racial uh, like script that's the description that's in the books. I think it's all necessary. It's not, I don't think it's just the physicality, but it's also the sociology and the history as well, which goes into that thing. And to kind of strip that away leaves everything a little bit bland and one dimensional. But
well,
to be honest, I would have to read those new character options and see if they do drastically change that in any way. Because I don't like to make too many assumptions on it without having read it myself.
yeah. So basically, like going forward, things like proficiencies, languages, and stat adjustments are going to be kind of pulled out. Things that are considered cultural, and
Mm.
then other features like dark vision, and I guess I mean like, um, the what is it? Fey magic. What is the get the name of the feature for the elves off the top of my head? Fey ancestry. Like that
Yeah,
stuff will be still like attached to the race, but they're pulling the
yeah.
other things off. The problem is they're trying to do it retroactively, and that is really hard. Instead of doing it, when they created it, like with Pathfinder 2e, like that system, I like the way they do that system. It has a lot of flexibility in there, and but and there's also a lot of moving components. They've done it way better than what Wizards of the Coast is trying to do now. But part of the problems is they're trying to do it retroactively, which is really hard to do.
I mean, I don't think that it's really necessary because what they have to understand is typically an elf will be more dexterous than a human. Typically, a dwarf will have higher constitution than a halfling. But everything is still individual because it's reflected in the total number as
Yeah.
opposed to the pluses that are added. So I don't think it was a real necessary move. I can see why they're doing it, and they're probably just doing it to appease someone.
Yeah.
But I think it's really unnecessary.
You're
I think
preaching to the choir, man. Like people are like, what if my half orcs not? What if my half orcs really smart and weak? And I'm just kind of like, you put the 8 in strength and you put your 15 in intelligence, and bam, done. And also, you max out a 20 anyway, so like you're
yes,
gonna get there. You're gonna get there, and it's not even that much behind. You know, the other races that get those bonuses to intelligence or whatever it is. So, but yeah, I mean, whatever makes people happy at their table.
well, yeah,
So,
exactly. I mean, I've had players play concepts which are just off the wall, bizarre. I mean, I had one half orc who was a chef, and he was a warrior tank style character, but in all the downtime, chefing
yeah,
constantly. He overtook a wizard's stronghold and turned his tower into um, a complete like uh, themed restaurant with wizards making neon signs and apprentices casting cold spells to keep the meat chilled.
yeah,
And that was so entertaining for him. But it goes against what we understand like orcish culture to be like. But at the same time, everyone is individual. Every person is individual, every player is individual, every character is individual. It's like I'll have the players meet NPCs, and and if it's like an orc, usually the first thing they'll want to do is put their hand on their sword hilt and be ready. But when they start saying, "So, I'm looking to trade this, looking to trade that," it's a nice surprise for the players when something different happens. Um, I think it's easy to fall into the trap of orcs are brutal, therefore this, goblins are devious, therefore the other. But then again, that's like a general thing.
yeah,
And you need those kind of descriptions so in things like the monster manual um, in order to make effective decisions about how you're going to put your encounters across. But at the same time, by having those descriptions written the way they are, you can subvert player expectations by just doing anything differently from what's written.
yeah. I mean, like I've used kobolds several times where the players have interacted with them. One time they got roped into a kobold sporting event, right? So like they didn't end up fighting kobolds; they ended up being on their sports team. And another time, like we have I use these kobolds that have skin flaps like flying squirrels, and they're basically like
Why don't you
I,
see winged kobolds? But hey, whatever floats your boat, carry on.
yeah, but I just treated them like hairless Ewoks, right? That lives in the treetops.
Yeah, I can just see these giant flying squirrels coming down now.
Yeah.
You know, and the stormtroopers like this armor does nothing. But no, I mean, I think part of any gaming experience is you have to subvert expectation as well. We don't want to play the same game or the same story over and over and over. We want to be entertained and we want to be surprised, and that comes naturally, I think, to all of us. We want to experience new things, especially from hobbies that make us that have such a deep impact on our lives, because for a lot of people that I game with in social groups, a lot of them are not the most outgoing, you know, um, and I find that being able to have those character options where you can play something else allows them a much greater degree of social interaction. But at the same time, as I was saying, you need to subvert expectations. So you need to keep them challenged, but it gives them the total package then, because everyone wants to just enjoy their session. And I think the more that you put in, the more you will get out. Does that make sense?
Like most things in life, right? But yeah, and that, like, and also, the thing is, like, with these games, is they're there to make it your own, right? And we should be doing it. I don't know if this is a newer player thing or this generation of gamers, or if I'm just old, but it might be
We're
all
all
of the
just
above,
old.
right? But it's like so often on social media, I see people asking for permission to do things in their games, and I'm like, why? Like, I don't think Jeremy Crawford really cares what you do at your table. To be honest with you, why do you need his permission? If it's fun for you and your gaming group, just do the fun thing.
I think I know why as well. So I was reading. If I recently did a video on it, it was Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, and in the back there in the DM's tool section, there's a bit on social contracts and player expectations and boundaries and stuff, and that's probably why they're asking these questions. I think if you know your players and you know what they're happy with, then you work to that. But again, when it comes to player expectation, usually session 0 stuff, they'll tell you if they're comfortable with something or not comfortable with something. And if you know your players anyway, then a lot of it isn't a big thing. You just learn to take your friends and your acquaintances as they are, and do games that suit their sensibilities. So maybe that's the reason why they're asking JC these, if they can have his lordly permissions.
Yeah. I guess too, like, I come from a generation where it was a lot harder to find games and people to play with.
Yeah.
So, and there was no one to ask, right? So you definitely didn't have to, worry about that as much. Because we always get, and I'm sure you do as well, like, tons of comments and questions. And oftentimes they just make me wonder, like, who are they playing the game with, right? Why would you even ask this? Like, I can't imagine you would be asking this question if you're playing the game with your friends.
Yeah, I do get that a lot. I look at a lot of comments and I don't always respond to them like I think I would respond if I was talking to someone day to day. I try to keep it a bit professional, because I want the channel to be accessible to everyone and everyone to feel comfortable watching it. So I try to respond in a professional manner. But in general, in life, I tend to be just a bit flippant, I think is the best way to put it. And it's like, why are you even asking me that? It's like you would think that a competent GM would have gone over that already with you. So yeah, I do get some odd questions, to be sure.
Comes with the territory. So what are you working on the channel nowadays?
So I'm really excited because there is they are remastering Diablo 2. And what I want to do is get some pre-generated characters done up, because like I told you before, I have to do some pre-gens and have them at the ready when I have to jump in and save the day, as I'm prone to do. So I'm going to be working on some pre-gens, some sort of mid-level characters based on the character classes that are available for Diablo. And I'll plan to put those on, full sheets spell selections, feat selections, and that kind of thing. So more kind of character builds. I'm still doing my typical content as well, which is usually class review. And a lot of people love the Unconventional series. So they'll really seem to like it when I take a class and kind of tear it apart and make it into something really off the wall. A lot of people seem to really like that content. So I will still be doing that. There's still a few other things I want to branch out into. I mean, I not all that long ago I got some great merch. Some the guys from Paladin Gaming, they sent me some of their dice. I still need to do a video on that, but it's a weird thing because this is a one-man show here. You know, it's just me. I do all the audio, all the editing, and it's just kind of like for fun. I mean, it was a really kind of mind-blowing moment when I looked at my email and it was like, oh, so Dave Farrant wants you to appear on Nerdarchy. And I'm like, sorry, what? Me? Just me? It was just mind blowing. And to have other kind of companies come in and say, can you review our product? Would you tell your subscribers about it? It's absolutely mad. It's something that other people do. It's not the sort of thing that comes across my desk, if you know what I mean. So
I hate
yeah.
to break it to you, did it to yourself, bud. You're out there, you put yourself on the internet, and we had a lot of people asking us to have you on too. So
Really? Oh, it's nice to be wanted, you know. But I don't know. I've always kept the channel face free so far
yeah,
because I'd like I like people to kind of judge on the quality of the ideas. Um, I mean, sometimes people like to put a face to a voice, but I don't know. I worry that it might distract sometimes. I mean, not that it matters now because people will see this and they'll be like, "That's what you look like." But I like the ideas to try to shine through. And to be honest, the format works a lot easier for me to be faceless because then I can put stat blocks up where I need to. I can have the text move in so that people can kind of. It's easier for them to understand, so they don't understand my description as well. Then
yeah.
perhaps the text is easier, for them to look at. So, and it's just something that works for me. Plus, it means I don't need a decent camera.
That's true. It does solve some of those problems.
But no, I find that it's a way in which I like to work because then I can re-record and re-record and re-record as many times as I need to get the audio perfect. Um, a lot of people don't know it, but I will sit here all day to record 20 minutes of video. Um, I will be like, I'll do hours and hours and hours of just saying the same thing over and over and over again until it sounds right to me. I should probably script things. That would probably be better if I scripted more often, but I tend to go with what I'm experiencing at the time.
Yeah.
With a lot of things because it's more raw, it's a bit more passionate, it's a bit more intense. So I like to just go with that. But I don't like to have too many ums, ahs, ers. I don't like those filler words. I like my text and I like my speech to be more fluent when the videos are playing. And so I'm forever editing sound all the time just to make it sound consistent because otherwise, well, I just hate. I don't mean I'm not really keen on the way I sound anyway. So it would be even worse if I sounded like a stuttering fool constantly. So
There is
yeah,
nothing worse than editing yourself. I mean, there's no greater um experiment in self-loathing than just editing yourself over and over again. I mean, we send out our stuff to get edited now, but I used to do it on Like, ugh, I would just yell at myself all the time. And we're terrible. We so many knows like um uh and at least when you're using like images instead of video,
Yeah.
it makes cleaning up the audio so much easier.
Well, this is the other thing. If I had a visual camera on me all the time, like
Yeah.
as we're doing now, if I was to chop that up the way I chop up my audio, it would be like closed circuit TV. Like, oh, here's jerky on the
It would
on
look
our
like a
screen again.
rave.
So it would look
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. Um, I don't know. Maybe I suppose like maybe I could experiment with more live stuff or more camera work, but I do like the format that I've got because it does allow me a very fine degree of control over what I want to say, and then I can go back, I can listen to the thing as a whole, and decide where bits again need to be cut out. If I find that I've repeated myself, then I can usually wipe it away, and in turn shorten the video down, which was always good. But no, I just like I like the way I do it. You know, I mean, everyone's got their style, but I just find that what I'm doing works for me. Plus, it means I don't have to get anyone else to edit my ramblings.
uh well, I mean, in some ways that makes that part easier too. But what kind of content do you enjoy making the most? I know you said your unconventional series people seem to like a lot. What is it you like doing?
You know, I like to do the unconventional series the most. I like the things that other people like because when they're passionate about it, it fuels my creativity. So unconventional just took off. It was ridiculous. I mean, I'll maybe get like 1,000 views at best on another video, but some of the unconventional stuff just flies off. People seem to really like it. So I'm happy to do those. Plus, it's like it's that subverting expectation again. People want new ideas and new things to get their creative gears whirling. It gets them thinking up new character concepts that they wouldn't normally have done. I mean, a lot of things that do also excite me is taking a well-known character from media and putting stats to it. So
Yeah.
I know a lot of people do like that. I know that there are, sites and content creators who do that, but um,
It's the
I
nerd
do
thing to
find,
do, I feel like.
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've got requests. I've done a few in the past. Did a few Mortal Kombat characters.
Oh,
Um,
nice.
yeah, I did Sub-Zero, Scorpion, Reptile, Ermac, a lot of the ninjas. I did Johnny Cage, Quan Chi. I've done some other characters as well, like Soul Calibur's Nightmare. I did Venom, was a fun one. I really enjoy Venom from Marvel, and a
Yeah.
few others. And I've had requests as well. How would you make this? How would you make the other? And I mean, I feel that a lot of the things that I put forward are often they should be common sense things, you know. But at the same time, I'm fairly good at finding how things work mechanically to make the most desired effect. So if a character has a special ability or something, I'm pretty good at finding the right spells, the right classes that reflect that, and it's fun just to research those things. Um,
We had someone do guest post, not someone, but Professor Bell from Comic Book University did guest post on our website, and they did Venom. I forget the character classes and stuff, but they had the character wearing a mimic.
a mimic, yeah. See, I try to avoid those kind of things.
Yeah.
I want to try to build it out of things that you can definitely have.
Yeah.
If it's written in your character selection uh, portfolio, then fine. If it's in your character classes, if it's in the feats, if it's in this, if it's in that, and you can definitely have it, then I like to build it from that. I mean, I've got an idea for a technical fighter, which I want to do as well. So I'm probably going to use a Soul Calibur reference or something, so I like a video game reference for it, and to show how the technicality of the combat will work. And I like that because it also shows that, again, you can have a class, but it doesn't necessarily have to follow a stereotype. So I think that is something that people enjoy, how to make characters that are close to what they have in their mind without having to make any adjustments to a class, just finding the right classes to add together to make what you want. I mean, I've always been a big supporter of multi-class characters, as long as it allows you to create the vision that you have.
I feel like Path of the Beast is a good base now for your symbiote because of the things you can do, or Incredible Hulk for the leaping, because it's
Who doesn't love
ridiculous.
a bit of Incredible Hulk? I mean, there's probably some spell out there to turn you green,
Yeah.
or just be an orc.
But so Brian wants to know what kind of content do you find to be an utter waste?
What, of my time or just in general?
Sure. It's vague, so I'm not entirely sure what they're asking. I think it might be like, stuff that you've done, and then you're like, oh. Like for us, I feel like the more creative we get with our content, where we make stuff and do stuff that's a little bit more fun, has less broad appeal. Like if we make magic items, we like to pair up weird monsters together. It's like no one cares.
I mean, I do enjoy the monster pairing stuff. I mean, I did a video a while back. It was like it was a video about mages and how to set up a good mage, at first level.
Yeah.
And I got a comment that was like, "I like your channel because it's not cookie cutter, but this video could be the poster for cookie cutter." And I was like, do I want to carry on this little mini series then? Because people seem to have this expectation of me that when I'm going to do something, it's not going to be what's expected.
Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of nice. And I think perhaps that's a good criticism to have. They expect me to do the unexpected. And I think that's why I appeal to the amount of subscribers that I have, is because it's just not really like a lot of the other content that's out there. So perhaps I try not to review too much when it comes to new books.
Yeah.
So I did the Tasha's, but only because I felt it was necessary to go over certain things that were in it, as to whether or not it wasn't so much a review, but it was more a case of, do you really need this in your collection before you part with your money? Because ours isn't a cheap hobby, not really. It's I mean, a book is like 35 pounds over here. I don't know what the conversion rate is over there, but
Yeah. I mean, it's not, but at the same time, the amount of hours you get out of it, like,
yeah. No, actually, yeah, you make a good point. I mean, this is why I like video games. I get far more hours out of that than I do out of movies.
yeah.
Only to be told, "Oh, why are you wasting like the video games?" And it's like, "Oh, and they're so expensive." It's like, relatively speaking,
Like in the before times, like I got a family of 4. If I was
Yeah.
to go to the movies and the dinner, it's like almost $200, right? Like it's 4 D&D books.
I know, yeah.
That would, like, dinner
And you
and
can
the
have 4
movie
people
would
around that you
last.
want to spend time with.
Yeah. Dinner and the movies, like, it's like 3 hours of your time, right? Where by 4 D&D books, like, if they're campaigns, like like Rime of the Frostmating or something, like each one of them could be a year worth of gaming.
Yeah, that's very true. Very true.
So front end it can be kind of expensive, but then like when you average it out over time, it's actually very inexpensive. And also, like, once you get the 3 core books, you never really need to spend another dime, and you can keep playing.
I suppose it's a little bit different from me because I have so many different types of game. I mean,
Oh, it can be expensive. I
I mean,
totally agree with you.
I mean, D&D is my main one,
Yeah.
to be honest. But I mean, I play other things. I mean, I've got Vampire the Masquerade. I've had this book for
Yeah.
20 years, and it's still good. What can I see over in my collection? I can see Rogue Trader from here. I can see Star Wars Saga Edition, Call of Cthulhu. What else is over there? Oh, Slay Industries. So I've got a ton of things, and because of the nature of our weekend group, we're always having short, condensed adventures, usually 12 weeks or so.
Yeah.
So bringing out new games is a constant thing, and we've been playing lots of good new games recently. I know Vassen is really popular at the moment. We play a lot of Pendragon in the group. There's what's the Simbarum? That's really good. I played that. I really liked Simbarum.
So, a fan of Free League?
Well, I just like to have my book, put it down, sit at a table with people I know, and just get on with it.
Well, I mean, you mentioned you mentioned a couple of Free League games there.
Well, I mean, I don't own all of those last few that I mentioned, but I do play them, and yeah, it's amazing what some companies are bringing out. I mean, I don't think I heard that term before. Free League.
Free League Publishing. They put out Vassen. They put out Simbarum. They're the publisher.
All right. I'd have to ask. I'd have to ask about that one. But no,
just look in the inside of your book. You'll see. It's in there.
Like I said, Vassen I don't have. I've just played.
Oh, okay. Then you would know.
Simbarum I don't have. I've just played. I know that Vassen is also popular.
Oh yeah. Those are Free League games.
It's popular in my group, but
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a few other.
They also just put out the Alien RPG. I guess it's been a while now. They put out the Alien RPG. They're redoing. They're doing a new edition of the One Ring.
Yeah, that looks really good. I've seen that on Kickstarter. I've got a guy who's backed that. He really wants it. So we will probably end up having some of that in our Sunday nights, I suppose, in our group.
Yeah.
In our social group games. I don't know. It would be fun to run private though.
There are just so many games and not enough time.
Don't get me started. I mean, there are so many great games, but there's also so many great adventure modules to go with them. I mean, never get a chance to experience.
Do you prefer adventure modules, pre-written stuff, or do you like to run your own stuff?
I don't think that people should be afraid of pre-made adventures. I think there's a lot of stress that people put on themselves to come up with something new and original. Yeah. There are some amazing pre-written adventures, like the one I'm running at the moment for Dark Heresy, the Apostasy Gambit trilogy. It is so good. It is so well written. It's loose enough that you can put in other things, but it's also got enough to get you to the places the player characters need to be at. And I think it can help free up a lot of your time. It can help to give you more inspiration for your own games when you do start to write them. I think there's too much stigma around pre-generated adventures, and people need to really just let it go and enjoy the games that have been published for them, because you can get a lot out of them. So yeah, I mean, I like to write my own, but sometimes, with all the other issues that life throws at you, you just have to just pick up a book, read it, and go, right, this is the adventure I'm going to run.
Yeah.
Just so that you can stay in the loop. But no, I would quite happily run those if need be.
As a player, I don't actually care. Like, I don't care if the GM runs their own stuff or pre-made. As a GM, I prefer to do my own stuff, but for completely different reasons than you mentioned. If I could only speak. So for me, like if I was to run a pre-made adventure, what I see is like, oh, I got to read this whole book and then adjust it to my players, or I can just show up and run a game because I mean, I spend like an hour, a half hour prepping before a session, and then like when we play, I take notes, and the notes I take during the session ends up being like my prep for the next session.
Yeah.
So for me, it's a lot less work when I just like homebrew and make stuff up, and I'll do a lot of stuff improv or on the fly. So I don't actually have anything against pre-written stuff. It just looks like more work to me.
No, I don't think it is. I mean, all the maps are already laid out, all the characters already got their personalities done for you. So all you have to do is just polish up your acting skills. The adventure has all its twists and turns already written out, and it's a great way, I think, for people to start if they want to be a storyteller. If they want to make that transition from being a player to being a storyteller, I think that pre-published stuff is the way to go, because then you can still put your twist on it, but you've got a decent structure to work from. This is why I will always say, if you've got a pre-published adventure do you think you want to run, go ahead, just do it. The amount of praise that I'm getting for this current one from my players is they are loving it. They're loving every session. They want to keep their characters around, and play them again, regardless of whether it's a pre-made or one that I've done myself. That's kind of because when you present the world to people, it doesn't matter where the inspiration came from. It's all in your kind of presentation and technique. I mean, you can have the best game in the world and just not have it run smoothly because you just don't present well as a storyteller. On the flip side, you could have the most basic of stories and it could be 5-star in other people's eyes because you just have a flair for storytelling. So there are a whole bunch of different factors that go into it, and I don't think we can really nail any one single thing. But I will always say just go with what you feel comfortable doing, and it allows you to make the best possible game that you can deliver for your players.
You hit on a really good point. Like, a pre-written adventure is a great way to learn how to structure things for GMs when you're starting out. And I think that's great. I mean, when I used to run games, I would write like it was a pre-written adventure, right? Flavor text, everything, like pages and pages of text, and I just don't need to do that anymore. But also, like, I also have a lot of experience too, so I don't, even though that's how I play, I don't recommend for people to start that way, right?
I think you're right. So I don't want to interrupt too much, but I think you definitely want to have a firm idea of what you want to do, and you should definitely plan it out, but plan loosely, because players will always run off on a tangent. And plan from the end to the beginning. So know where you want your players to be, and then all you have to work out is how they're going to get there. That's one of the best ways I find. What is going to be where do I want the players to start? What's the end scenario going to be? And then how they get there, that's the, that it tends to fall in line or by itself. I got one player who, when he's running a story, he just has a title and then the beginning, the middle, the plot hook, the plot twist, and then the end, and everything else he just kind of wings. But that comes from 25 years of his experience doing it. I mean, I got 20 years of experience myself, so we can get away with things like that because we've seen so many adventures, so many pre-generated things have come across our desk, so many other players have run games for us. We know so many of the tricks, so we can get away with doing things like that. But I think if you're going to move and start storytelling or start the GMing process, you need to plan it properly. But as I say, great to plan what you want to happen. Know what you want to happen, plan back from there, and plan loosely enough that you know that you have an out. You always give yourself a way out, is what the other good piece of advice I would say, because too many starter GMs trap themselves in the, God, I need my characters to go over here, but for some reason they've gone off that way.
Yeah.
So
That and never ever hinge anything on a single die roll.
Oh, never, no, never. If I want the characters to see something, they'll see it. I say it's like
These are hard learned lessons.
Don't ever have like the MacGuffin require a stat roll or something to find, because the adventure won't happen then. If you want them to find it, have them find it.
I'm gonna take
find things that they could use to improve their odds, but if they don't find it, too bad.
I'm going to take a final question from the chat before we head on out.
All right.
So Poison wants to know, would you write an adventure or publish it on DM's Guild or something?
I've actually written a campaign setting at the moment. So there's a group of us who we make role-playing products. So we started by making an adventure builder, which is like generated through cards. We started with that, and that had some reasonable success. And now we're looking to make role-playing games and adventure.
Is there a website or something people can go to?
Yeah, Trinity Not Studio, and you can check that out if anyone who's interested. So it's a fun little thing that just gives you the loose information. Like I was saying, when it comes to planning loosely, that's exactly what it does. You have your encounters, you have your locations, you have your plot twists, and there you kind of draw them out, and you kind of see, and then you just kind of infer from that. So that's one thing we started on. Then through those, we tend to find that we make good and more interesting adventures. But we're trying to branch out into like campaigns. So what we're trying to do is make a system agnostic campaign world, which you could apply to virtually any fantasy role play setting, whether it be high fantasy, low fantasy, dark ages, whatever, but all in that kind of area. And each of us has got our own specific section of the world that we're working on. So at the moment, my writing time is spent with that, but I would not be hesitant to write an adventure of my own. And what was the site that they mentioned? DM's World or something?
Oh, the DM's Guild, yeah.
I'll have to look into that, because I'm always on the lookout for good ideas that I can bring across my table, and sources like that they're usually a great way to bring in something that your players haven't seen before. So
I added the website to the description, as always, folks. In the description, you can find links, so you can check out Drow Bard as well as Trinity Not Studio. We're just past the hour mark. These go by so fast, too fast. I'm so happy I was able to get you back on here after we lost the first chat we did together. I appreciate your time. Final thoughts before we head out?
No, it's again, there just isn't enough time for us to discuss all the wonderful things that role playing has to offer. I would definitely like to have this discussion again, perhaps find a specific topic of interest and just spend the hour just going at that. But I would say, for those of you out there who are still trying to to get to grips with it, you know, this is the guy. This is the guy here. He, you know, he's got all the best content creators, and I would say just get as much info as you can.
Well, thanks, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it. And we'll definitely have to do it again in the near future. And until next time, everyone, stay nerdy.